When you open the monster manual, right at the beginning you see the Aboleth, really just analogous to the world of Dungeons & Dragons, where indeed the very first thing that the prime material realm ever truly saw was the one and the same. Superficially, what looks to be a prehistoric type of fish, it is quite, in fact, what we would consider an aberration. These types of creatures come from without, aliens in this world, entities that defy the natural existence, monsters from the far reaches of the universe. These are aberrations. What is not born of the prime material realm, that instead comes from what we call the far realm. The far realm is the frontier between what is and what isn't. The difference between what can be understood and what shouldn't be understood. These are the extreme reaches of the known multiverse, as far into oblivion as you can get. When you sleep into the darkness of the beyond, when you stray far from the light of creation, there exists this far realm. Nothing in here can truly be understood. In fact, the very act of seeing it, let alone believing it, is enough to drive any adventurer mad. For in this realm, nothing means anything, and everything is also nothing. A wizard that travels to the far realm ceases to be a 3D object. The air is syrup, and you start growing legs instead of teeth. The entities that grow and exist in this place are as bizarre as its world, and this is just a frontier. The far realm is merely the gateway into the unknown, into the unimaginable. But it is here that the beginnings of the Aboleth come from. But how do we explain the beginnings of the Aboleths? How do you recall anything from a time before time? No official book recalls this epoch. No timeline exists in any wiki for this age. In fact, there's not even a name for this time in space. The gods were not even born by the time this story begins. In fact, all that ever existed was what we now call the Elder Evils. Evils might be a biased word, but these primordial filaments of eternity have no respect for life. They are so monumentally powerful that even the multiverse itself is but a hallway to grander things. And through this hallway passed one of its greatest, an entity that we shall call the Blood Queen. Once this entity passed through this small tiny hallway we call the Prime Realm, an echo of this monstrosity was left. Like a piece of its magnificence that was left over, and this piece was the Prime Aboleth, the very first of its kind. This creature, this Aboleth, was a similar reflection of its mother. A creature born perfect, intelligent, powerful, and above all, ambitious. Left in the prime material realm with no guidance, no love from its parent, it sought its fortune. No gods had been born yet. No true races had existed. The world was aberratorial, as it was known back then. The same world you play in when you play in any of the 5th edition campaigns, except this is prehistoric times, millions of years ago. A planet with no lands, but encompassed entirely by water. A dark, dark world with no sun and no light. The Aboleth was alone, but there was much to discover. and its body was perfectly suited for this task. You see, this creature doesn't actually age, and it lives forever, as only disease and war can destroy this vessel. Every 5 years, it would crave solitude in order to reproduce, and as a completely hermaphroditic creature, it lays its eggs and fertilizes them all by itself. And from the prime Aboleth, 1 to 3 children would be born with the memories of the father. The Aboleth imprints his memories onto his children, so by the time they are born, they come out as full adults in all but in size. And that was the beginning. The beginning for all in this realm. The true start to the whole mythos of Dungeons and Dragons. The Aboleths took over and dominated the planet, conquering and enslaving every single new race that emerged until the planet was entirely theirs. Great cities were built, an entire culture was formed, and the single greatest empire this world would ever see was shaped. For eons, this was true. For countless ages, the great empire of the Aboleths reigned true. And for all this time, no real recording exists. The gods didn't exist then, so not even they know for how long the Aboleths were kings. In fact, only the Aboleths themselves truly know. To the rest of humanity, we consider this time as the time before time, when the timelines don't even count the years, for they truly don't even know. This is what comes before the first recordings of the ages, what comes before what we know as the Blue Age. This age, this Blue Age, is when the gods were born, when the Dawn Wars started and the gods fought the primordials, when the sun was created and all was illuminated. The Aboleths controlled the planet, and they had enslaved everyone else that existed in this world. But for all their power, for all their might, they never expected that which actually defeated them: religion. Indeed, it was religion that defeated the Aboleths. For the slaves believed. The slaves of the Aboleths had faith. They prayed to the gods, and in the world of Dungeons and Dragons, many gods become more powerful the more servants they have, the more faith they receive. The higher the number of shrines, the louder the supplicants, the more fervor from the clerics, the more mighty these gods become. This was unseen by the Aboleths, a great power they were blind to, for how could they see this coming? How could they know? How could they stop their slaves from praying? How would they stop their servants from believing? Well, they couldn't. And the gods grew strong, and the gods pitied the slaves, and as such, the Aboleths were struck down. By all the gods above, they came down on Avertoril with an unquenched fury and destroyed the empire. All their cities collapsed, and most of the Aboleths were killed. And after the great Aboleths were defeated, the age we call the Days of Thunder began. The ice caps melted, the world was shifted, and a massive continent was brought up from the deep depths of the oceans. This is when the creator races emerged. This is when the gods started keeping track of time, and the cultures that followed did so as well. And we know this to be about 37,000 years ago, or as we call it, the end of the Aboleth Empire. But the Aboleths are immortal. They live forever, and not all were killed. Technically speaking, as long as at least one Aboleth survives, the whole race is bound to rise again. And rise again they did. But this time with a hatred to rival the devils. For they have something special we have yet to talk about. They have perfect memory. The Aboleths have the ability to recall everything that happens to them with perfect clarity and without error. Combining that with their ability to imprint their memories onto their babies creates a race where every single Aboleth remembers every single detail about every single hour of every single day that happened within the span of all the eons that have ever existed in the universe. As long as an Aboleth has seen something, then every single member of his lineage down the line will remember that event, and with perfect clarity. This is why Aboleths hate the gods. Every single one of them. For they remember as clear as yesterday their defeat at the hands of the gods. They remember their cities. They remember their empire. And they remember their culture. They remember the slaughter that they suffered. They respect the gods in the sense that they respect the power that they wield, but they do not honor them. They don't see the gods as this mythical thing to be awestruck by, as entities to look up to. And of course they wouldn't, for the Aboleths remember every single god's birth, and they remember many a god's death. The Aboleths know far more than the gods do, and they clearly remember a time when the gods didn't even exist, and they yearn for that time again. And much like before, the Aboleths would grow in numbers and threaten the world only to be pushed back and defeated again by the gods. A cycle that would repeat itself many times through the countless ages, as an ever-ending threat. This cycle of the Aboleths are always waning or waxing. They are always either in retreat or in full charge. But then the question is, are they currently waxing? Or are they currently waning? To defeat an Aboleth, you have to understand an Aboleth. Stay tuned for the sequel to this video where we will cover what kinds of powers do these creatures possess, what are their weaknesses, and of course, a reveal to the greatest secret in the world of Dungeons & Dragons. The reveal of where the Mind Flayers actually come from. Special thanks to Anthony Dial, Wyatt Curlin, Toby Oliver, Dylan Baker, and Casey Butler for supporting me on Patreon at the $25 level. If you would like to support me as well, then head on over to patreon.com/MrRhexx to help. Thank you all for watching and stay tuned for the next part to this video.